pins down the Congress is that DMK, born out of hatred for Sanatan, and then he questions Congress and its compulsion to ally with the Stalin-led party. So Prime Minister targeted the Congress and DMK for their anti-Sanatan stance and even questioned the Congress for aligning with the DMK, which has taken anti-Hindu stand. Now there was a time when Bharatiya Janata Party was aligned with DMK and Atal Bihari Vajpayee was the Prime Minister and he shifted horses midways on the issue of Pota. But that's eons ago. So before I go further, let me play out Prime Minister Modi's bite and then we'll have a discussion on it.
सवाल हमें कांग्रेस को पूछना चाहिए। जो कांग्रेस जिसके साथ किसी जमाने में महात्मा गांधी का नाम जुड़ा हुआ था, जो कांग्रेस जहां इंदिरा गांधी जी गले में माला खुलेआम पहन करके घूमती थी,
रुद्राक्ष माला जो, हाँ,
रुद्राक्ष माला पहन करके घूमती थी इंदिरा जी। सवाल कांग्रेस को पूछना चाहिए कि तुम्हारी क्या मजबूरी है कि ये सनातन के खिलाफ इतना जहर उगलने वाले लोगों के साथ तुम क्यों बैठे हो भाई? क्या तुम्हारी राजनीति अधूरी रह जाएगी क्या? ये कौन सी कांग्रेस की सोच विकृति आ रही है कांग्रेस में, ये चिंता का विषय है। डीएमके का तो जन्म शायद इस नफरत में पैदा हुआ होगा और धीरे धीरे वो नफरत का खेल भी उनका लोग स्वीकार करने नहीं लगे हैं और इसलिए वो नए नए तौर तरीके अपना करके बोल रहे हैं। प्रश्न उनका नहीं है, प्रश्न कांग्रेस जैसी पार्टी का है कि उसने अपना मूल कैरेक्टर गंवा दिया है क्या? जब संविधान सभा में जो लोग बैठे थे तो ज़्यादातर गांधीयन लोग थे, ज़्यादातर कांग्रेस की विचारधारा से जुड़े हुए लोग थे और पहला संविधान बना, उसके हर पेज पर जो पेंटिंग है
रामायण,
वो सनातन की ही परंपरा से जुड़े हुए हैं। तो आपका संविधान बना, उस संविधान में सनातन का गौरव का हिस्सा था और आज सनातन को इतनी भयंकर गालियां देने की हिम्मत हो और आप उनके साथ चुनाव की राजनीति करें, उनके साथ मंच साझा करें, मजबूरी कांग्रेस की, ये देश के लिए चिंता का विषय है।
So the format of today's show is that I'll be going to the guest on a particular bite and eliciting their response. And there will be a number of other bites. And I have Sunita Aaron, author and consulting editor at Hindustan Times, Ratan Sharda, author and political analyst, and Rani Abraham, senior journalist. On this, I'll go to Ratan Sharda, sir. We will have 2 to 3 minutes per question. So, on the issue of Sanatan Dharma, Prime Minister has gone hammer and tong, but the same party was in alliance in the 2000 with DMK, and I don't think anything of their ideology has substantially changed. So, in what perspective I should see the statement of the Prime Minister which came out in this interview, sir?
See, Kartik, if you go back to the time when DMK was in alliance with BJP, go and look at the record on their behavior in the social arena, on their behavior about religion. Karunanidhi was much more sophisticated. He knew when to control himself, when not to say anything. Yes, DMK has a history and the roots in DK, which is a Dravidist movement based on fake narrative and fake history. But they never misbehaved, they never insulted Hindus when they tied up with NDA. And before that also, when the Hindus rose in rebellion against continuous insult of Ram, Sita, Bhagwan and also Ganpati, festival became one of the biggest festivals. And Hindus forces also had become very strong after conversion racket in Meenakshipuram. After that, DMK had modified its stance. It is only after Karunanidhi's departure Stalin has gone extremely towards the missionary style of, insulting Hindus and insulting Sanatan Dharma. So they have changed their stance, they have changed their political behavior. I think that is the reason why BJP has to respond to that and question Congress on how they are behaving, why they are agreeing to everything. If DMK had behaved at that time the way they are doing now, I'm very sure BJP would not have tied up with them. I'm very sure about that.
I think that's very well put when you said that Karunanidhi behaved very sophisticatedly and he didn't cross the Lakshman Rekhas of politics at that point of time. Now, there's another bite of the Prime Minister. Prime Minister Modi said that the Ram Mandir was a spiritual and a personal movement for him and he was fulfilling a dream of 140 crore Indians. He also targeted the opposition for using Ram Mandir as a political weapon. Let's play out that bite.
पहली बात है कि इसका राजनीतिकरण किसने किया, और इसको आज की घटनाओं से मत, जब हमारा जन्म भी नहीं हुआ था, हमारी पार्टी पैदा भी नहीं हुई थी, उस समय अदालत में ये मामला निपटाया जा सकता था, समस्या का समाधान हो सकता था। भारत विभाजन हुआ तो विभाजन के समय ये तय कर सकते थे, चलो भाई इतनी इतनी चीजें ऐसा कर लो, वो नहीं किया गया। क्यों? कि एक ऐसा हथियार हाथ में है, जो हथियार वोट बैंक पॉलिटिक्स के लिए मजबूती का एक दांव है, इसलिए उसको पकड़ के रखा गया और बार बार उसको भड़काया गया। अब जब ये अदालत के अंदर मामला चल रहा था, अदालत में अभी जजमेंट ना आए वहां तक कोशिश की गई। न्यायिक प्रक्रिया से होना चाहिए, तो हमारा संविधान हमें कहता है और सरकार की तो जिम्मेवारी है, लेकिन उसमें भी अड़ंगे डालना, ये क्यों? क्योंकि उनके लिए ये राजनीतिक हथियार था, ऐसे लोगों के लिए। और देखिए राम मंदिर का, ऐसे लोग हैं राम मंदिर कर रहे हैं, तुम्हें मार देंगे, ऐसा करके वोट बैंक बनाने का एक तरीका था। अब हुआ क्या, राम मंदिर बन गया तो उनके हाथ से वो मुद्दा ही चला गया। अब वो किसी को डरा नहीं पा रहे हैं, राम मंदिर आ जाएगा, आ गया, कुछ नहीं हुआ, आग नहीं लगी कोई।
I'll go to Sunita Aaron. Sunita, if you recall in 90s, a lot of people said that a part of the Congress believed that if let me rephrase it, a section within the government at that point of time believed that if there was no Babri Masjid, the problem would go away. And I'm not getting into who said this, but you have covered, you know there are a lot of people at the highest level said if that's not there, then you have taken care of the problem. Today, Prime Minister is saying something from a different perspective. He says that now the Ram temple is there, a different type of politics has come to an end. Because the whole argument was that if this happens, then it will throw open the Pandora's box. And there is no Pandora's box. Sunita.
Yeah, I think after 1992, after the demolition of the Babri Masjid, things changed, the situation changed. And today, it no more remains a political issue. Now it has become a temple where people are going, they're offering prayers. And if anybody thought that there would have been a clash or anything, even the Muslims reconciled, accepted Ram temple after the Supreme Court verdict. But it's a very interesting thing. If you look at the three landmark dates that come in the history of Ram Temple movement, I'm talking about 1949, then I'm talking about 1986 and 1992. All three times Congress government was in power. And BJP became active only after 86. Congress suffered electorally after, the 1992. In fact, they started losing ground after 1989, Shilanyas, whereas BJP grew from the temple movement. What I'm saying is based on data, not my own, thought about it. But as political parties do, of course, they have blamed each other. And Congress says that it is the BJP which made it a political issue while insisting that it is a matter of faith for them and not of politics. On the other hand, Congress, which always remained in a confusion, in a dilemma what to do because they feared losing the support of the Muslims. If they supported the temple movement, they could not take a stand as firmly as BJP did. So they suffered. They have gone down after 1992, 89 rather, 90, whereas BJP has grown. But yes, you can see after the Supreme Court verdict, the manner in which the temple was built, the emotions were very different. They were not, and in fact, it was reflected in the slogan also. पहले था मंदिर वही बनाएंगे, अब है राम मंदिर, हम आएंगे. Now it's more of devotion, peace, and all.
Okay.
So it's a different way of looking at it. There is a different perspective, but if you look at data, then there is a different story altogether.
It also tells us that Ram Mandir will remain a part of BJP's pivot. You know, and the pivot may not be very, very aggressive as it used to be, but it's not going to go away because it is like a commitment that has been fulfilled. Now, the third bite, the Prime Minister, which I have picked, is on Rahul Gandhi. It also tells me that despite Rahul Gandhi being run down, principally he remains an opponent. Because for a Prime Minister to speak on a particular politician means that he has got his eyes set on him. Let's listen into the Prime Minister's bite from his interview on Rahul Gandhi.
अभी मैंने एक नेता का भाषण सुना, उन्होंने कहा एक झटके में मैं गरीबी हटा दूंगा। अब जिनको 5-5, 6-6 दशक देश का राज करने को मिला, वो जब आज कहेंगे कि मैं एक झटके में गरीबी हटा दूंगा, तो देश सोचता है ये क्या बोल रहे हैं। तो मुझे लगता है पॉलिटिकल लीडरशिप की क्वेश्चनेबल होती जा रही है। ऐसे में प्राण जाए और वचन न जाए, ये महान परंपरा से हम निकले हुए लोग हैं। मैं मानता हूं कि नेताओं ने ओनरशिप लेनी चाहिए, जिम्मेवारी लेनी चाहिए। ये मैं जो बोल रहा हूं मतलब मेरी जिम्मेवारी है, ये कोई करेगा ऐसा करेगा ऐसे नहीं चलता है। और उसमें से मैंने बल दिया है गारंटी का। मैं कमिटमेंट भी करता हूं और उसका मैं ओनरशिप ले रहा हूं। और जब ओनरशिप लेते हैं ना, तो देश को भरोसा होता है। आज आप देखिए कि हम जो बात कहते हैं उस पर लोगों का भरोसा है। 370 हटाऊंगा, भले हमें पार्टी का जन्म हुआ तब से हम कह रहे थे, हमारे श्यामा प्रसाद मुखर्जी ने बलिदान दिया था, लेकिन हम उस पर पक्के मन से लगे हुए थे। जब मेरा मौका आया, मैंने पूरी हिम्मत दिखाई, 370 गई और आज जम्मू कश्मीर का भाग्य बदल गया।
So now let me go across to Rene Abraham. There is one strand which is clear. Prime Minister attacks Rahul Gandhi, but he attacks him on a different pedestal, that, or a different plane, that's, if that's the correct word, that he doesn't stand on his words. His politics keeps on changing. You know, the goalpost continues to shift. And I think that's one thing which has stuck with him.
You're right, absolutely, Mr. Sharma, on this count. And to answer your earlier point that you raised, in India, there are only two national parties as of today. And this was the situation even in 2014 when the BJP came into power. So, you know, why the special targeting or focus on Rahul Gandhi and the Congress is basically derived from that fact that there are two national parties in India. There are a lot of aspirant national party aspirants, whether it's the TMC that would like to, you know, better its prospects in Tripura and other states, or many other opposition formations, which as yet have been unable to achieve that stature of a national party. So that answers why the Prime Minister keeps focus on Rahul Gandhi and the Congress. And when you speak about the point that the Prime Minister Narendra Modi made today in his interaction, the fact of the matter is Rahul Gandhi did make a statement about one jhatka and removal of poverty. Probably he would have been smarter to cite Kerala, which only a year ago was able to eliminate poverty from the district of Kottayam, which is today known as 100% poverty free, of course, under the LDF formation, although the Congress regimes earlier had worked in that regard.
Okay.
So instead of saying that, and that never happened in a jhatka either. It took a long process. The same district got the distinction of being the 100% literate district in 1986 when the Congress was in rule. So there is no jhatka politics that's going to eliminate poverty or illiteracy in our country, and a fact that Mr. Gandhi should have been focusing on. So the Prime Minister is having a field day citing the jhatka comment, which is not going to really help the Congress to win confidence of voters, is what I would like to say.
Okay, I think that's very well put, because there is another bite which I'm going to play, which is the fourth bite, and that bite is that the Prime Minister has addressed the issue of electoral bonds. Prime Minister has actually broken his silence on that issue. So before I play that bite, Brijesh, your overall assessment of 1.5 hours of Prime Minister. That interview was beamed all across India.
Well, I think what the Prime Minister has done is basically he has given clarification on various issues which were which were there in the public domain, but was the party felt was not answered eloquently or didn't came from the top. There were talks about how Enforcement Directorate was misused. There were talks about Ram Temple and why the assertion should have been made. There were talks about the behavior of the main opposition party, and they were also reinforcing the slur on Sanatana, which Prime Minister would definitely want to put it forward in the public domain, because he understands he was not at all talking about DMK. He was only talking about Congress. And the fact is that he still believes that if they are able to get this tag of Sanatan Virodhi stick on Congress party, then it will work them wonders in couple of states where the Congress is in a position to kind of mar the party for the Bharatiya Janata Party. And that is the reason why this elaborate explanation on all things that were being the BJP was being accused of, and also an assertion on things which BJP was very confident or high on.
Okay, and I was saving best for the last. Let's play out that bite.
इलेक्टोरल बॉन्ड का भी विशेषता थी, कैसा झूठ चल रहा है। कुल देश में 3000 कंपनियों ने इलेक्टोरल बॉन्ड दिए हैं। उसमें 3000 में 26 कंपनियां ऐसी हैं जिन पर कार्रवाई हुई है। ये कहते हैं ना ईडी वीडी टिकना फला, 3000 डोनर है, उसमें सिर्फ 26, और उनमें से 16 कंपनियां ऐसी थी, छापा जब लगा उस समय बॉन्ड खरीदा। कोई जोड़ सकता है इसको? अगर बॉन्ड खरीदा, लोग ये जोड़ रहे हैं, उसकी विशेषता ये है कि ये जो 16 कंपनियों ने बॉन्ड खरीदा, उसमें से 37 पैसा अमाउंट बीजेपी को डोनेशन में मिली। 37, 63% बीजेपी के विरोधी पार्टियों को मिली।
अगर पूरे जोड़े जाएं तो हाँ,
मैं ये 16 कंपनी जिसका ईडी सीबीआई कोई न कोई उस समय एक्शन भी हुआ और बॉन्ड भी निकला, 37% अमाउंट बीजेपी ने, 63 ऑपोजिशन को। क्या ईडी रेड करे और ऑपोजिशन को डोनेशन देने का कार्यक्रम वर्क करे? क्या बीजेपी ऐसा करेगी? इसका मतलब कि 63% पैसा विपक्ष के पास जाए और आप आरोप हम पर लगाएं, लेकिन उनको गोलमोल बोलना है और भाग जाना है।
So this was the first part of the last bite which I said. The second part will be on CBI, but I'll straight away go to Mr. Sharda. Mr. Sharda, first principle clarification by Prime Minister on the bond issue, sir.
I think Kartikeya, Amit Shah also gave a clarification, but Modi ji is much more articulate and much more goes back to the entire history. I think the important part of this electoral bond discussion was that they were trying to find a way out of removing black money from election funding. For that, they had many discussions. First, they reduced the cash that can go to political party. They themselves suffered because they could not get, they refused to take cash for their election funding. And then this particular bond came, which was one of the thinking that came up, that official money should go for elections. Now, out of those 14,000 crores, as is pointed out, 6,000 has gone to BJP, others have gone to other parties, which means there has been equitable distribution, in fact, more in favor of opposition, despite BJP being the dominant party. And readiness to relook at the entire thing and review for a better policy, I think that openness is very important. That we need to cleanse the elections and political funding from black money, and it has to be official money. For that, whatever way is possible, we'll go by that. I think even courts, when they talked about it, they have taken one-sided view. They should have gone back to government or given their own suggestion how we can improve this particular process, make it more transparent, and we know how people who give money to the opposition party, how they suffer, how they are also, persecuted by different parties, even state-wise. So I think his entire discussion was, I would focus more on the urge to remove black money from the election funding and elections and move on to something much more, right and much more, rational for election, for the politics to become cleaner.
Very well put. But I would also say that, there were a number of articles on the right to privacy, there were a number of articles on retrospective issues on which the larger issue of faith in the system was put into account. I think it's going to be a long debate whether this, how this judgment is going to impact the political economy of elections in the long run, because ultimately the whole idea was to take out the black money, and now the black money is the elephant in the room. The bond scheme is out. People know which money, from where it came and to whom it went, and the older system is back into the place. So one still does not know that how do you take care of the circulation of the black money, which is the suitcase which is moving. Now let's go to the part B, and the part B is actually the most pressing debate in this election, which again the Prime Minister has addressed, which is the opposition's allegation that Enforcement Directorate is working on the behest of the government and is being used to harass the politicians. Prime Minister addresses the issue.
ईडी ने जितने केसेस किए ना, उसमें से सिर्फ, देश को समझना, सिर्फ 3% ही पॉलिटिकल लोग इन्वॉल्व है जिन पर एक केस हुए हैं। 97% जिनका राजनीति से कोई लेना देना नहीं, ऐसे लोगों है को हुआ है, जो कोई ड्रग माफिया है, कुछ अफसर हैं जो करप्शन करते हैं, कुछ अफसर हैं जो बेनामी संपत्ति बना के बैठे हुए हैं। 97% केस उन पर हुए हैं, जेलों में वो लोग गए हैं। अच्छा मजा देखिए, ईडी एक स्वतंत्र संस्था को काम कर देना चाहिए, नहीं करने देना चाहिए, बनाई क्यों भाई? 2014 से पहले ये संपत्ति अटैच करने का ईडी को अधिकार है। 2014 से पहले उन्होंने सिर्फ 5,000 करोड़ रुपए की संपत्ति अटैच की। कौन रोकता था ईडी को भाई? और किसके लाभ में कर रहा? मेरे कालखंड में गलत काम करने वालों की 1 लाख करोड़ रुपए की संपत्ति अटैच हुई है। कई देश की जनता का पैसा नहीं है? दूसरा आंकड़ा तो आप और हैरान हो जाओगे। 2014 पहले इसी ईडी ने देश में से 34 लाख रुपए, 34 लाख रुपया कैश जब्त किया था। मतलब कि स्कूल बैग में आ जाए इतना पैसा, स्कूल बैग में आ जाए। पिछले 10 साल में हमने 2,200 करोड़ रुपया कैश जब्त किया है, 2,200 करोड़ रुपया कैश जब्त किया है। कहाँ 34 लाख, कहाँ 2,200 करोड़? 34 लाख रुपया एक बैग में आ जाता है, 2,200 करोड़ रुपया शिफ्ट करना है तो वो हाथी का छोटा सा ट्रक आता है ना, 70 ट्रक लगेंगे तब जाकर इतना रुपया हमने ईडी ने हमारे यहाँ हमारे कालखंड में। इसका मतलब ये है कि ईडी सही काम कर रही है। कैश पकड़ा है, लोग पकड़े नहीं, कैश भी पकड़ा है। और मेरा ये कमिटमेंट है जी, मैं ये कन्विंस हूं कि भ्रष्टाचार ने देश को तबाह करके रखा है। हमें देश में से भ्रष्टाचार के खिलाफ लड़ाई लड़नी चाहिए, पूरी ताकत से लड़नी चाहिए, और ये मेरा व्यक्तिगत रूप से मेरा ये कन्विक्शन बना हुआ।
And on this, I'll open the debate. Sunita, do you think it's going to cut much ice with the opposition? Because Prime Minister has taken the stand that, you know, the agencies have been given a free hand to go after the corrupt. Do you think it's going to cut ice with the opposition, or a general impression at large?
Yes, to some extent, because the ruling party was not talking so much on this issue, whereas the opposition has been talking about the misuse of agencies to break the parties or to send their leaders to jail. So this time, a clarification or an explanation or a details coming from the Prime Minister will make a lot of difference. Having said so, he also said in some other respect that don't be मेरे से डरने की जरूरत नहीं है. It was in some other respect that he had made that line, which was a very, very catchy one. I thought it was the highlight of that. I think it will make a difference because of the recoveries and all that. But how would he change the perception that has been created amongst the masses? I think they'll have to go to the town, paint the town red with his statements, and remove all wrong perceptions that it has created, with people going to jail and the parties breaking.
Brijesh.
I don't think it's going to change the perception, because, you know, statistically PM can give the stat that 97% are others and only 3% are targeted. The fact of the matter is that in this country, whether it's a CBI during the UPA era or ED during the PM era, the BJP NDA era, they are perceived to be highly corrupt and compromised. They perceive to be, and in large extent rightly so, that they work under political influence, and there are cases galore which points completely otherwise to what to the direction which the Prime Minister was hinting at. A National Daily put forth a list of 25 politicians who have quit other parties and joined the BJP, and from May 2014 till the time we are talking about it, it's a very clear picture about the kind of relief they got as far as the heat of ED which was otherwise targeting them. So I don't think that this particular soundbite of Prime Minister is going to cut much ice with the voters per se.
Okay, Rennie, will it cut ice with the voters? Because anyway, voters are in their own echo chamber. There is nothing called a common voter, but it's going to cut ice with the opposition. That is why I said.
Absolutely. Mr. Sharma, I mean, the two things here we need to understand. One, on the electoral bonds issue, the Prime Minister himself made a very tacit admission that it is not the last value of what is intended, in terms of the process through which the electoral bonds was brought in. And also, they've had to compromise on the confidentiality aspect that was promised in the electoral bonds. Now, having said that, on the front of ED actions on oppositions, I'm sorry, if I may just also conclude, he did mention that 37% of electoral bond donations were to his party, whereas 60% was to others. Now, that between the lines, what we can make out is, why would and he kept asking, why would the opposition be getting this, and would that have been our intended plan to introduce electoral bonds? But what he's not telling us is the fact that these opposition formations, be it the Congress or the TMC, which have taken a bulk of the electoral bonds, number 2 and 3 respectively, have got government formations. The Congress has lost out a few, but they have government formations in very many states of India. So that explains why the electoral bond donations are made to them. It's not just made to the opposition party. So that's the bigger question that's arising. Are the electoral bonds directly linked to, creating that political goodwill for obvious projects and works in those respective states as well? So it doesn't answer the question about what is the intention, And on the aspect of the investigative agencies, it is also correct that there were BJP leaders who were also summoned by ED. I remember classic case of, when Raj Sakre was called by the ED in Mumbai, it became a huge thing. But 2 months before he was called and summoned by ED, very senior leaders of the BJP who were also summoned, Mr. Mangal Prabhat.
Okay, let me just take one more reaction from Mr. Sharda. Mr. Sharda, the overall interview was on multiple issues, I can't just go into it's 1 hour, 18 minutes, We'll have to replay it to again discuss it between next 3 hours. But your broader comment on what the interview of the Prime Minister framed.
See,
the issue it frames.
Karthikeya, for my mind, the most interesting 2-3 things were not about the domestic politics and conflicts. To me, the mindset that we will prepare a blueprint, we are preparing a blueprint, and we are keen upon implementing within next 100 days what we did last time, what we will do this time, and the vision of 25 years, and the way it has been planned with a very nuts and bolts approach, that was very impressive. Second is the way it's turned around diplomacy from highly protocol-based and defensive diplomacy to very open, informal, and go-getter kind of diplomacy. These two things, the way he has handled G20 I was impressed by that. And also the way he has gone very frankly about various issues. I think these are the things that would impress any viewer. And as far as the ED is concerned, definitely, this is for their own constituency. BJP people, voters will feel exonerated, they will feel happy. Opposition voters will feel that yes, it's a vengeance. And unless the action also goes on against some of the ruling party members, or slowly or in a hurry, this will impact those people. But those sitting on the ball, will they approve of the anti-corruption crusade? I believe they might be, impressed with the anti-corruption crusade. So they might ultimately help BJP.
Okay, that's very well put. So I would like to thank Mr. Sharda, Sunita Aaron, Reni, Brijesh in this part of the discussion. You don't go away, you stay with me. And this part of the discussion was dedicated to Prime Minister's 1 hour 18 minutes interview. And I think the biggest takeaway of this interview was that he actually touched upon the subject of electoral bonds, and he says it's not as if the entire money went to Bharatiya Janata Party. There's a substantial portion which went to the opposition parties, and the fact of the matter is, which I discussed in my show, when the initial list came out, a lot of people were saying that these people gave a lot of money, and suddenly realized that some of the regional parties were the biggest beneficiaries of some of the companies, which included DMK and far of TMC, and they got substantial amount of money.